I'm just saying I'm doing a report on the Vietnam War. May 7, 1954. Ho Chi Minh's forces defeat the French at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, effectively ending the 7.5 Indonesia War. July 1954. A conference in Geneva, world powers agreed to a divided Vietnam. Communists led by Ho Chi Minh controlled the North. The United States eventually supports an anti-communist government led by Ngo Dinh Diem in the South. September 10, 1960, Lee Dien replaces Ho Chi Minh as first secretary of the Vietnamese Communist Party in Hanoi. November 8, 1960, John F. Kennedy beats Richard Nixon in the U.S. presidential election. Lyndon B. Johnson is vice president. December 20th, 1960, Southern revolutionaries backed by the North Vietnamese Communist Party from the National Liberation known in Saigon and Washington as Viet Cong. July 11th, 1963, self-immolation of Buddhist monk Thich Quang Duc in Saigon sparks outrage around the world and brings attention to the developing conflict. President Diem and his brother Ngo Dinh Nhu are murdered during a coup by dissident generals of the South Vietnamese Army. November 22nd, 1963, Kennedy is assassinated and Johnson is sworn in as president. August 2nd through the 4th, 1964, two supposed incidents in the Gulf of Tonkin lead Johnson to seek congressional approval for direct U.S. involvement in Vietnam. March 8, 1965, First Marines land in Da Nang. November 14th through the 18th, 1965, in Ia Drang Valley, American troops fight their first large-scale battle against the North Vietnamese Army. April 5th and October 21st, 1967, hundreds of thousands of anti-war protesters gathered for demonstrations in New York, Central Park, and Washington. Summer 1967 to spring 1968, during a series of border battles in remote locations of Dak To, Con Thien, and Khe Sanh, U.S. Army and Marines faced relentless onslaughts from North Vietnamese. January 31st, 1968, during the Tet Offensive, North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops launched surprise attacks against targets throughout South Vietnam. February 1968, in the ancient imperial capital of Hue, communist forces execute at least 2,800 people, mostly South Vietnamese civilians. March 16, 1968, over the course of 4 hours, American soldiers killed more than 500 unarmed civilians in and around the hamlet of My Lai. March 31st, 1968, Johnson announces he will not run for re-election. November 5th, 1968, Nixon is elected president, promising to end the war in Vietnam. October 5th, 1969, the moratorium to end the war in Vietnam, a series of mass demonstrations across the United States takes place. A second happens on November 15th. November 3rd, 1969, Nixon goes on television to call for national solidarity on the Vietnam war effort, appealing to a silent majority to support his policies. May 4th, 1970, 4 days after Nixon announced expansion of the war into Cambodia, 4 students at Kent State are shot by National Guardsmen during a protest. February 8th through March 25th, 1971, the South Vietnamese launched Operation Lam Son 719 against North Vietnamese forces in Laos, which ends in their hasty retreat and defeat. March 30th through October 22nd, 1972, the Eastern Offensive invasion by North Vietnamese forces is successfully repelled by South Vietnamese. January 27, 1973, ceasefire agreement is reached between U.S. and North U.S. POWs begin to return home. March 29, 1973, last U.S. combat troops leave. South Vietnam, August 1974. Nixon lead office. A North Vietnamese tank rose through the gates of the presidential palace in Saigon on April 30th, 1975, signifying the fall of South Vietnam. The war ended on April 30th, 1975, with the fall of Saigon, now known as Ho Chi Minh City, to communist troops from the north. April 30th, 1975, Saigon falls, the end of the Vietnam War. This is a picture of all the recruitments, pictures to get American soldiers to join for the Vietnam War. Thank you for watching my report.